activation tips are not going to be like your regular glute activation tips where it's like kind of stereotypical and kind of basic. These are going to be things that activate your glutes that actually work, that I do myself personally every single time I'm at the gym and between gym workouts, and what I do and what I've done to myself to make my glutes grow more than double in the past year alone. So I've done it for all my clients as well. So it's not just some made up tips that help you activate your glutes. These actually work. I really want all of you to just try every single one of these that I say and tell me that you do not feel your glutes more. So one really big thing that a lot of people don't talk about enough is cardio. The importance for cardio and growing your glutes go hand in hand because it allows your body to circulate way more blood to the area that you want. And cardio really bumps up blood circulation a lot, and it just increases your ability to feel your glutes because you're able to get more blood to that area, hence feeling that area more. So doing cardio is the most not talked about thing when it comes to growing glutes, and really any muscle, but especially glutes, because you really get to practice like the blood circulation going to that area for cardio. So it's very, very helpful, and I do it at least 3 times a week so that I'm always on top of my blood circulation game when it comes to feeling the muscle working. And remember, the more blood you're able to get in the glute area, the better. And I think a big mistake that a lot of girls do is completely skip this step when they're trying to build their glutes, not realizing that they may be out of shape and their body does not know how to circulate their blood correctly. So this is a huge step to start with. That way your body is able to actually circulate the blood correctly and not be kind of like numb feeling, if that makes sense. So something that I do every single time for glute activation is warm-up sets, what I call burn sets, before every working set. So working set means a weighted set. So you want to do a burn set, what I call. This means you don't do any weight, and you just focus on the burn and giving the brain the cue of where the area is at that you're wanting to feel and wanting to contract. Because if your brain doesn't have that cue, you can't go into the working set expecting your brain to know where it is unless you've already built it up. And if you haven't built up your glutes, your brain won't know where the muscle that you're wanting to work is located. So this is very, very important to start doing before every single working set. That means for hip thrusts, that means for Bulgarian split squats, that means for barbell RDLs, squats, everything. That way, it basically tells your brain what muscle you're wanting to work in the working sets, and then your glute growth will take off like crazy if you just start doing this alone. And this brings me to the point of you want to make sure that you're using the glutes every single day, even your rest days, in any ways you can. The main way I do this is by doing single leg RDL burn sets on all rest days. So I do 2 sets for each leg on all rest days. And what this does is it teaches the brain, again, that it needs to be using that muscle all the time. It needs to be recruited all the time. So it's going to start building up those neural pathways to start recruiting more of those muscle fibers, hence growing it more and more the more you do it, and the more your brain starts to realize that it's going to be needing to use this muscle 24/7. That way, when you go into your next workout and your next leg day and your glute workout, your brain is already going to be in that mindset of, okay, we have to use this muscle to perform this exercise because she has been using it every other day. So hopefully that makes sense. But even on non-rest days, on regular workout days, I do single leg RDLs in between each and every Bulgarian split squat set because it really activates the glute the best. That's the reason I picked single leg RDLs in the first place, for activating the glutes, because it is a really, really good exercise and movement that relies heavily on the glutes. And a lot of the women that I coach for one-on-one online coaching, they just feel these the most, whether they're just first starting out or they have been working out for years. And it is what I do as well. And I'm currently in phase 6 of my own coaching plan that I made for myself. but now I'm applying it to all of them, so it's so fun and exciting to see. So in summary, you not only want your glutes to be worked, you want them to be prioritized. So as I was going over the video clips, I realized there was 3 really important things that I totally forgot to mention. So the first thing is how important actually the glute bands are. So those like influencer glute activation workout videos that you see, they do have a point with the glute bands. What it does is it really allows you to push out your knees and train you to push out your knees, because when you push out your knees, it creates an abduction movement which activates your glute medius. And your glute medius is that top shelf that you see and that most women want nowadays. That is number 1. So the glute band is a really good way, especially for hip thrust. Hip thrust, it helps so much with hip thrust, glute activation. And that is my main way, especially for the glute bridges that I do before every single leg day as a glute warm-up activation workout, which is also another thing that I do that I totally forgot to mention in the video, was that I always do a 1 burnout set of glute bridges. So I do as many as I possibly can with the glute band. So pushing out my knees and pushing my glutes forward. That kind of leads me into my next tip that I forgot to mention, is when I do these movements, whether it is glute bridges, whether it's hip thrusts, Bulgarian split squats. I said this in the last video, but I wanted to mention it again now. Sorry about this, by the way. It's not like the nicest room or anything like that. So, but I need to say this information so you guys know these important tips. If you see where my pelvis is right here, you want to tilt it back like this. And that helps activate the glutes so much. It helps a ton with glute activation. So it's the same angle as drinking a cup of water. It's this motion with your pelvis. So you want to go like this, in, and then go down. Or if you're in a hip thrust, pretend I'm like horizontal right now. You want to do that same thing with your pelvis, so like this, and then thrust up like you usually would. I don't know why I'm losing my breath. Oof. But the very last thing I totally forgot to mention in the video was that it's very important to be pushing out your knees in any movement. I want you to think about like sprinters. They don't sprint like this. They don't like turn their knee in and then sprint. They sprint like this, like out, like this movement. Sprinting, the biggest muscle that aids sprinting, which is why most of the women and men that are world-class sprinters have the biggest glutes, because when you're sprinting, you're doing basically a kickback. So you're doing a glute kickback when you do sprints. Basically, when you do a Bulgarian split squat, you want to mimic that same motion. You don't want to be like this. You want to be like this during the movement. So if you have the weight in this arm and this is the working leg, you want to have your leg like this. So if this is you standing straight, this side, this is standing straight, normal, you want to have your leg like this while you're doing the Bulgarian split squat. So pretend I have my leg up on something. So not like this, not straight. That would be straight. You have to go like that. It's a very subtle difference, but this is me just standing straight. And this is what I do for a Bulgarian split squat. I not only turn my knee out, but I lean toward that side, if that makes sense. And it's the same thing with hip thrusts as well. You need to be pushing out your knees like this, and then hip thrusting up. So just pushing out your knees in all of these movements, any leg movement will always activate the glutes way more than you think it will. The last thing, but probably the most important thing, is be patient with the neural pathway connection establishment. It takes a long time to establish these new muscle fibers and to be able to recruit them. So you have to be really patient with it. Again, like always though, it's so important that you have a well-structured plan in order to execute everything I say in this video. That means having a baseline, having phases, and making sure you're progressing, and periodization planning yourself. And if you don't know how to do that, that is what I help with all my online coaching clients. So that is all links in the description for that. But it's so important to be patient with the whole process of building those new muscle fiber recruitments. It takes a really long time, and you just have to be patient with it. It's not going to be instant, but once you do have it, it's like once you grasp a hold of those recruitable muscle fibers, the glute growth is just crazy. And along with everything that I said, if you do all of it in this video, it will happen like that for you, like it did for me 6 months ago. It just all clicked, and I made this whole plan for myself, but now I'm using it on clients, and they're just loving it, and I have the most glute growth I've ever seen, like I said before, and it will guaranteed happen for you. You just have to be consistent and intentional, doing every single rep as if it's your last rep that you're ever going to do, and that way you can get the most activation possible. And without the activation, without the muscle growth, you won't have the activation. So the more glute growth you're able to get, the more activation you're able to get and feel. So the more glutes you grow, the more glutes you will feel. It's just that simple. And all the things I said in this video is going to help you get there. And it is real things. It's not like these fake, like Instagram thing, like influencer programs that just throw out random things, like these sidewalking band walking things. Like, those things do not work. I tried that some years ago when I first started working out. None of it ever worked for me. It is simply doing these things that I mentioned in this video are the biggest things you can possibly do to start activating your glutes and getting those neural pathways established so that you can even feel the glutes in the first place. So don't get down on yourself when you can't feel your glutes. That's part of the process. And I cannot wait to see all of your progress. And if you don't already follow me on my Instagram, do that. And yeah, I hope you guys have a good one, and goodbye.